Let's break it down straight from the hill to your hometown. No spin, no hype, just facts we find. AI's on the case, no truth left behind. Laws are written, deals are made. Who's got your back, who's throwing shade? We cut through the noise, decode the text, keeping it real. Congress in context, Congress in context, shining the light, breaking it down so you know what's right. Policies, votes, who's working for you? We bring the facts, the power is you.
Welcome to Congress in Context.
Great to be here.
Today, we're diving into the Congressional Record from April 28th, 2025.
Yeah, think of this as, your inside look.
Exactly. Your shortcut to understanding the key debates, the bills, all the discussions shaping American policy right now.
And there's quite a mix from this date. Lots to unpack.
We've got everything from workforce efforts, manufacturing, consumer protection.
Healthcare, too, and some significant international affairs points.
Right. Our goal is really to sift through it all, highlight what matters, and connect the dots for you.
Give you that clearer picture of what's actually happening in Congress based on the official record.
Okay, let's get started. How about we begin with the economy? Workforce and manufacturing seemed pretty prominent.
They did. Representative Joyce of Pennsylvania, for instance, highlighted President Trump's executive order.
The one aiming for, 1 million apprenticeships a year?
That's the one. A really ambitious goal. Shows a big push towards skilled trades.
And that fits with bolstering the domestic industrial base, right?
Absolutely. And Joyce also mentioned Hemlock Semiconductor in Michigan. They make polysilicon, which is, crucial for microchips.
Connecting to things like the CHIPS Act.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's not just jobs. It's about securing, that foundational tech. Smartphones, military gear, everything.
Reducing reliance on potentially risky foreign sources.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Then you had Representative Miller Meeks pushing for H.R. 1721.
The Critical Infrastructure Manufacturing Feasibility Act. The name kind of says it all.
It really does. It's about studying if we can actually make critical infrastructure products effectively here.
So another piece of that larger onshoring puzzle, strengthening supply chains.
You got it. It's about economic security, but also national security, producing essential stuff domestically.
But it wasn't all like heavy industry. Representative Harshbarger brought up music tourism.
Right. The American Music Tourism Act, H.R. 617. A bipartisan bill, interestingly.
Promoting travel to U.S. music festivals, venues. That's a different way to think about economic stimulus.
It is. And Harshbarger pointed to a pretty significant potential economic impact. Plus, it taps into American culture.
And that bipartisan support is interesting, too. Shows where they can find common ground.
Definitely. And speaking of supply chains, Representative Dingell discussed H.R. 2444.
The Promoting Resilient Supply Chains Act, something we're all much more aware of lately.
Painfully aware sometimes. This bill wants to proactively map and monitor supply chains, figure out weaknesses before they bite us.
And mitigate future problems.
Yeah.
Is there a tech angle, too?
Yeah, big focus on emerging technologies. The idea is that securing these supply chains is vital for staying competitive, for leading in those new fields.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit. The record also included honoring individuals. Representative Costa paid tribute to Guadalupe Castillo.
A World War II veteran. Fought in the Battle of the Bulge, D-Day. Just incredible service.
A powerful reminder. Costa also recognized the Armenian genocide.
Yes, acknowledging that significant, tragic, historical event. These moments in the record are important. They reflect on our history and value.
And there were others mentioned, too.
Tributes to Marine Corporal Hunter Lopez, Congressman Henry LaFalce, Pope Francis, R. Bowen Lofton from Texas A&M.
And even community groups like the 75th anniversary of St. Mary's Rotary Club.
Exactly. It shows the breadth of contributions Congress acknowledges: military, political, spiritual, academic, community service. It really paints a picture of valued service.
Okay, let's turn to Social Security and healthcare. Always hot topics. Representative Larson voiced concerns.
He did, specifically about potential cuts to Social Security benefits. He pointed out how many people in his district depend on those payments every month.
Really grounding the policy debate in, real-life impact.
Precisely. And he contrasted the potential cuts with the Democrats' plan under Hakeem Jeffries, highlighting those different approaches to the program's future.
Healthcare disparities also got a lot of attention.
A major focus. You had Representatives Bynum, Presley, Figures, Clyburn. all talking about the urgent need to address inequities.
Especially racial and socioeconomic ones.
Yes, particularly for Black mothers and people in rural areas. Representative figures even brought up the historical context in Alabama's rural counties.
And concerns about cuts to Medicaid fit in here, too.
Right. They framed potential cuts as something that would worsen these disparities, hitting vulnerable populations who rely on that safety net. It's presented as a fundamental fairness issue.
But there was also talk about addressing healthcare costs.
Yeah, Representative Pfluger brought that up. He highlighted legislation already passed, capping insulin costs, annual out-of-pocket limits for Medicare folks.
There's some progress acknowledged there.
Acknowledged, yes, but he also expressed concern that those gains might be rolled back. So it shows the ongoing tension, the lack of real solid consensus on healthcare policy.
Got it. Now, consumer protection and technology, this seemed like a really active area on the 28th.
It really was. A lot going on. For instance, the Setting Consumer Standards for Lithium-ion Batteries Act.
Oh, yeah, with all the e-bikes, scooters. Those fires have been in the news.
Exactly. It's a direct response to those safety concerns, mandating safety standards for those rechargeable batteries.
Because the technology itself, the energy density, needs careful management.
Right. If it's not designed or made properly, you get thermal runaway, fires. So this is about public safety with new tech.
And the American Music Tourism Act popped up again here.
It did, framed this time as boosting local economies and showcasing culture. Shows how one bill can hit multiple goals.
Then there was the Youth Poisoning Protection Act,
Yeah.
H.R. 1442. This one seemed quite specific.
Very specific and concerning. It targets high-concentration sodium nitrate.
Because it was being promoted online for self-harm.
That's the deeply troubling connection, yeah, especially among young people. So the bill aims to restrict consumer access to it, a direct response to a dangerous online trend.
Wow. Okay, also the Take I Down Act, protecting
Yeah,
people
yeah.
from non-consensual intimate images online.
Hugely important in the digital age. It aims to help victims, especially minors, get those images removed quickly and holds platforms more accountable.
Addresses the devastating impact that can have.
Absolutely. Creating a framework for dealing with online harms.
And something maybe a bit more everyday. The Hotel Fees Transparency Act, H.R. 1479.
Yes. No more surprise resort fees, hopefully. It mandates upfront disclosure of the full cost.
Finally, a win for the consumer trying to comparison shop.
That's the idea. Empower consumers, promote fair competition, get rid of those hidden fees.
Okay, and then there was a whole suite of bills focused on securing communication networks. Cybersecurity and national security loom large here.
A major theme. It's a multi-pronged approach. You saw H.R. 1721 mentioned, again, reducing reliance on China for critical infrastructure.
Right.
Then applying the Secure and Trusted Communications Networks Act framework that's about ripping and replacing risky gear, now applying it to satellites.
Expanding its scope.
Exactly. The Routers Act wants a study on risks from routers and modems linked to foreign adversaries, looking at the hardware itself.
Checking for vulnerabilities.
The Rural Broadband Protection Act, making sure the money for rural broadband goes to secure providers, vetting them properly.
Because security matters everywhere, not just cities.
Right. Then looking ahead, the Future Networks Act sets up a task force for 6G, potential supply chain and cyber risks down the road.
Getting ahead of the curve.
Trying to. The Foreign Adversary Communications Transparency Act, basically asking the FCC to publish a list. Who holds licenses? Do they have foreign ties, especially adversarial ones?
Increasing transparency there.
Yep. And the Informing Consumers About Smart Devices Act, requiring disclosure if a device has a camera or mic when you wouldn't expect it. Privacy concern.
Like, is my toaster watching me?
Sort of, if it's not obvious. And finally, reauthorizing and beefing up the NTIA, the National Telecommunications and Information Administration. Modernizing it, clarifying its roles in spectrum, broadband.
Wow. Okay. That is a lot on tech and communications security.
It really shows how central that's become across the board.
Okay. Shifting again, international affairs. We mentioned Representative Costa honoring Armenian genocide victims.
Yes, an important historical recognition on the floor.
And support for Ukraine was a big topic, too.
Very prominent. Representatives Quigley, Capter, Dean, all stressing the urgency of continued aid, condemning appeasement of Russia.
Framing it as a really critical moment.
Absolutely. A critical moment for democracy in Europe was the message, highlighting the stakes.
We also saw mentions of Syria, a military sale to Germany, David Perdue's nomination as ambassador to China in the Senate.
Right, those are the day-to-day mechanics of foreign policy. Ongoing conflicts, alliances, diplomatic appointments. It's all part of the picture.
Okay, rounding things out, some other notable items.
Yeah, a few things. A regulatory guide from the Nuclear Regulatory Commission on decommissioning plans.
Fairly routine, but important.
And the House passed several bills under suspension of the rules. That included some, we talked about, lithium batteries, music tourism, sodium nitrite, take it down.
And suspension usually means pretty broad support, right? Less controversial.
Generally, yes, it requires a 2/3 majority. Meanwhile, the Senate was in mourning business.
What does that typically involve?
It can be a mix. They discussed World Autism Month, paid tribute to Senator Dick Durbin on his retirement announcement.
A long career there.
Indeed. And the Senate passed a resolution designating April 2025 as Earth Month. So legislative action, procedural stuff, recognitions, the whole gamut.
So after diving into all that activity from April 28th, what's the takeaway for you listening?
Well, it really paints a picture of Congress grappling with a huge range of issues simultaneously. You've got efforts to boost the economy, protect consumers, deal with healthcare, honor people, navigate global crises.
Especially that focus on Ukraine and the push for domestic strength through manufacturing and secure technology.
Right. And you see where they can agree bipartisan bills on things like music tourism or battery safety.
But also where the deep divides remain, Social security, healthcare approaches. Those debates are clearly ongoing and intense.
And that massive focus on tech security, supply chains, that just screams this is a major priority. Safeguarding American interests, economic and national, in this complex world.
This deep dive, it's really just a snapshot, isn't it? One day in the life of Congress.
Exactly. To really get the full picture, you need to dig deeper.
We definitely encourage you to do that. Look at the bills we mentioned, HR this, S that. The text is out there.
Follow the news on these debates. See how they evolve. Think about, well, how might these decisions actually affect your life, your community?
What stood out to you today? Did anything surprise you? What questions does it raise about where things are headed?
Because ultimately, this is your Congress. Staying informed, understanding the issues, that's the first step to engaging with it.
And engagement is key to a healthy democracy. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us today.